Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of How Did We Get Here? I'm your host, Jay Carter, and the man that is always heard and never ever will be seen, Skeens, a.k.a. the background killer, a.k.a. the Wizard of Oz, a.k.a. present but not accounted for, a.k.a. coming to a theater near you but you'll never see it.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to another episode of How Did We Get Here? We got two cousins that are like brothers talking any and everything in the process. How did we get here? We have a special, our unofficially official third co-host, whose camera is saying is disabled. But anyway, King Kai Phoenix. Welcome back to the show, King Kai. Is King Kai there? Okay, we can still hear you. We ain't tripping. So yeah. So anyway, y'all, it's been a minute. It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a dope pod to listen to. Had some things going on, getting some technical difficulties and things like that ironed out. And of course, as we get back on, I see that Kai is falling off, but we still gonna keep going. But anyway, man, we want to make sure that we get the pods jumping off again. I've had people over the last, several weeks. The last thing we shot was dealing with the Will Smith saga, which I'm looking, that's been a minute since we jumped on. So Skeens and I should be coming back at regular intervals and what have you though. But what's been up, man? It's been a minute. I know. I gotta look, y'all. How long has it been since we?
It's been about
It's been more than a month.
Well, man.
The slap was a long time ago.
Yeah. And then, as you talk about the slap, I'd see Jada is having a red table talk.
Yeah, I saw. I refused to watch it, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, now I give it to them. They have a great PR team because now she touched on the slap just a little bit,
just a taste,
get it out the way.
Yep.
But now it's about people that are dealing with alopecia.
Right.
Now, hey, I feel for anyone who's dealing with different things, but to step over the slap and the accountability that goes within that, we're now talking about alopecia. We got to tug at the heart.
Right.
It's great marketing.
Yeah, I see that she basically, she brought people on, talk about, I think it was a lady on there, they said that talked about her daughter, maybe something happened to her because she was bullied about alopecia.
Yeah, so the daughter, people, yeah. So
we got you, Kai, we hear you.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying that she started wearing a wig, but before that, the girl had been coming to school, with the different issues, and I'm not for sure if she had issues prior to. But they said she decided to remove the rest of her hair and she started wearing a wig, and the kids laughed about the wig.
Okay.
But you know what's kind of a crazy thing? And I think the UK just passed a law saying that you can't make fun of men that are bald.
For real?
It's considered sexual harassment.
Okay.
So
okay,
it's kind of that's kind of crazy. Yeah, he just passed a law saying it's considered sexual harassment.
Wow.
Yeah, man. So hey,
to me, nobody is above being made fun of. But go ahead, King.
If they're making fun of you, clearly they're not sexually attracted to you.
well, as kids, the kids that little kids, when kids grew up, the boys would be mean to the girls
that they like.
So one of those different things. But
yes, but as I grew and became a man, I put away childish things.
Absolutely, I'm with you. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate within that.
That's wild. So
Roger.
So let's jump into this, man. As per usual, y'all, we have absolutely no format whatsoever what we're doing here, but. Kai, we talked about this, and Skeens and I, of course, talked about this offline the other day as well. But what are your Actually, Kai, I posted on YouTube. I was just telling Skeens that people was online mad at me because of I posted on a comment on there that I was talking to one of my brothers, and he was saying that Monique, talking about the Monique DL Hughley, that, you know, basically she has this level of entitlement that she has, that she feels like, and Kai said something to the effect of, because she's been around a long time, she thinks she need to be treated a certain way. What typically we see that type of entitlement. We discussed this in our younger people, but what do you think that Monique has this issue that she's had this entire time? And it really goes back to entitlement, feeling that she should be treated a certain way. And, you know, she brought up the fact that because she was the closer on Queens of Comedy, and that since DL was the opener on Kings of Comedy, that there's no way that he should feel like he should headline over her.
Well,
okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
In my opinion, I think that she is a victim of her own success, because Monique was actually a trailblazer.
Mm-hmm.
And she has trailblazed and kicked down the doors for a diverse array of people. And as a woman, as a big woman, as a strong woman, that's hard to do. And a lot of people expect people to acknowledge that once society has changed their views on things. And sometimes you feel like you have to remind people, but you have to constantly update your resume.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue with legacy is that, and it's something Kanye can learn, you can't keep telling people how great you are. They have to acknowledge your greatness.
Exactly.
And I think that she feels she should be treated better because of what she has done. But you have to constantly update your resume. And the new generation comes and forgets.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that she's been able to really deal with that. And since she is strong, and since she is assertive, she has gone at certain people, believing that she's right. And oftentimes she has been right, but she burnt a lot of bridges. And the sad part about it was she had just come back. 50 Cent had just brought her back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then she does this. And DL, you know, I knew it was going to happen. I knew he was just going to pull the receipts out.
Right.
I knew he was going to do it. And I think that she just can't get out her own way.
Yeah.
Let them acknowledge your greatness. You just got to keep working and keep doing your thing, and let them acknowledge your greatness. You can't force feed it down people's throats. It's either they acknowledge it or they don't, and you keep going with the knowledge that you did.
Right.
And the people that your legacy was really important to, they'll let you know. They'll give you your flowers. You can't snatch flowers out people's hands and say, this is supposed to belong to me because of what I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's about a conversation too about, even in your greatness, that you have to maintain a level of humility, though. Yep. You always have to be humble about where you are. And, you know, nothing, again, and it's a fine line. There's a balance to it where, because of your cachet and because of your resume, like you said, because of your history, you know, there are things that come with it, but you can't always necessarily just expect it, though. You know what I mean? You got to take it as it comes. Skeens, what you got? I see you.
Well, you know, one thing. Okay. You know, one reason why Puff is great?
Why?
He reinvents himself every 5 years.
Okay. Yeah.
The recreation of the name.
Right.
What I'm saying is, that's part of updating the resume. I have to show people who I am, or I have to rebrand myself.
Mm-hmm.
So with Monique, unfortunately, and I've always wrote with Monique through all that, you know, when she was getting blackballed.
Right.
But for the ones that was against her, you're proving them right. Mm-hmm. When they say she's difficult.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can't work with her.
Mm-hmm.
The different stereotypes that a lot of black women have by being argumentative, difficult, unwavering, unwilling to get along.
Mm-hmm.
She made anyone who believed that is her or that's the stigma of other women that are like her, she proved them right. And as Kai said, only thing DL did, he just pulled out receipts.
Yeah.
We can argue in all these different things, but as I forgot what politician said, everybody's entitled to their opinions, but everybody's not entitled to the facts, their own facts.
Right.
The facts are the facts. Okay, yes, she headlined the Queens of Comedy.
Right.
And you say DL was the opener for the Kings of Comedy. Even Corey Holcomb was saying a lot of those Queens of Comedy shows wasn't really full. That's just like a WNBA player, let's say Candace Parker, one of the greatest NBA players, try to compare herself to, I don't know, Russell Westbrook.
Okay.
Russell's okay. He's good, but he's not great. She's in the top 5 in WNBA.
Right.
Russell's in the top 30.
Right. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
Yeah. I think even Corey was saying that show itself wasn't, just I think he said there wasn't even packed, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I think, and that's a great segue though, is, I look at it as, like you said, the WNBA soccer players, et cetera, talking about is not necessarily who you think you are, but it's in reality, what are you bringing? And I don't know what her ticket receipts and all this other stuff. I'm sure that they, even when she was in the thing with Netflix, about a lot of it was based on, they talk about how really, because they're, as a company, they're looking at what they're going to get back.
That's what I was about to say.
They're looking at what they're going to get back.
Business, the bottom line.
Right.
Are we in the red or are we in the black?
Well, it's just, again, segueing into the WNBA. I think I can't remember if I got this stat from a year or 2 years ago, but they were saying that every team in the WNBA was in the red except for 2 teams.
The WNBA is losing, I forget, $3 or $4 million a year as a whole.
Right, just as a whole.
They're losing money.
You know what I think will get lost in all of this is DL, like what she's talking about is that she headlined Queens of Comedy and DL was opening. That was like 20 years ago.
That's my point. Yes. Right. Yeah.
DL is still relevant.
Now, in that 20 years, what DL has become, like he's completely reinvented himself.
100%.
Author.
Yes.
He is now an activist. He is a spokesperson on CNN. He's done podcasts. Yep. He's done radio. Like what he has become is more like an activist and a social, commentator, as well as a comedian, as well as a best-selling author. Like, you don't headline in front of that.
Right.
And he's on a different echelon. Like Steve Harvey should not headline in front of him.
Right.
Yeah. And
he's doing all of, all the shows, and You Smarter Than the Fifth Grader. Like, one of those is a cultural voice. He turned himself into a cultural voice. You know what I'm saying? Somebody, when bad things happen in our culture, we turn to DL. David Banner, Killer Mike.
Right.
We don't turn to Steve Harvey. He says a couple nice things after one of the shows that gets a whole bunch of Instagram play. But other than that, when he's turned himself in, it's like, Monique, what have you done?
Yeah.
Yep.
Since Precious, but bicker and fight.
Yeah.
Well,
and they both provided their own level of receipts. But what I saw from most comics, though, is that the issue is not with DL, but the issue would be with the promoter, which she talked about at first in the beginning of when she went on this little 10-minute deal, is that it was a promoter. And a lot of comics said that it's been many times when the run of show was supposed to go a certain way and it got, and they were, a lot of comics I saw were like, as long as my bread isn't messed up, I don't care if I go first, second, or last. Now, again, there is a mystique and a lore within the comedic ranks to be the closer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There is. And he presented his deal memo, and then she presented her contract, but they're saying that was a contract that, was between her company and herself. And some people saying the deal memo ain't the contract, but then I'm looking at other comics are like, when you're doing shows and shows and shows, I ain't looking at contract. I look at the deal memo, which is a summarization of the contract. So, I don't know what all the, all that stuff go. I just think that if she had an issue with him, Kai, that either you pull the promoter to the side or you go to DL and say, hey,
exactly.
That's what you do. You don't air this out, in front of the masses.
No, I think at this point, she has backed herself in the corner of status. And if status is the only thing that you can ride on, you have to constantly maintain it.
Right.
Which means she has to be the headliner, or it's going to be, oh, she's falling off and such and such. So she backed herself into the status. She has ego problems. But with all the relationships that you have destroyed, when you have somebody as relevant and as important as DL's voice, and he takes the chance to bring you along, I think that he deserves the chance to be spoken to in private.
There you go, 100%.
Yep, and that's my
and I think that when this show comes out for her, I hope that it can do something good for her, because I feel like she just put the death date on her gravestone in her career.
What was you saying, Skeen?
Pretty sad.
And like you were saying, if she has an issue, if her issue was with the promoter, right? Why does she have so much disdain for DL? And she because basically her, outside of the few seconds that she's talked about the promoter, all of her rage was going towards DL.
Oh yeah, she called him down low. She talked about he put his feet under my table,
talking about his wife and all this
whole nine.
Under the abundance of the heart,
right?
The mouth shall speak.
There you go.
Yeah, so if you saying
everything was all cool as long as you're giving me an opportunity, and as soon as it goes bad, let me tell you what I really think about it.
Yeah, man. And this was the time we were supposed to. This was her coming out act. You know, as you talked about DL reinventing itself. That's why I correlated with Puff, the reinvention of himself,
right,
for new relevancy.
Right.
This was her time to say, hey, to the masses, hey, sister, we everyone who did wrong by you, we all apologize, and let's bring you back to the forefront that you can rightfully take your place.
Right.
Now, you ingratiate yourself with DL, and it's a stepping stone to you slowly move yourself back onto the mantle.
Yeah.
But by doing that, you stab somebody in the back who DL like him, hate him or love him. He's put himself in harm's way for a lot of situations that he shouldn't have to. DL's multimillionaire. He don't have to talk about certain things.
Right. Yeah.
He's messing up a lot of his money by certain affiliations. She should have took the time, this opportunity to say, hey, we put you back out here in front of everybody. Now you get the love that you deserve.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Yep. Yeah.
I think that was his point.
Yeah.
That's what he was trying to do.
It's sad, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back into we had this conversation over and over again, is that, when it's not about the unity that we show when we are on the same sheet of music, but how do we deal with each other when we're not on the same sheet of music? How do we do that? How do we show the community that we're doing that? And, for a comedian of Monique's stature, and the part of it that is wild, DL still went out and did his set.
Yeah.
She did this before he comes out to do his set, which is just like
show class, and he's a professional.
Absolutely. But, I thought it was just crazy. I took some shots on social media today, which was, I always still stay calm and tell people I respect their opinion, but it was people trying to snap, a few comments trying to snap on me on YouTube.
Bro, we just talked about the Killer Mike interviewing Herschel Walker.
Right. And matter of fact, Kyle, let's talk about that, because I watched about 20 minutes of it, and I was telling Skeens that just mentioned it to me before we came on air, and I was like, Kai had posted it too, and, was saying that, there's so much that we can learn from Killer Mike of how he still deals with people that he doesn't agree with.
Yeah.
And he does it so beautifully and eloquently. But I mean, you're a huge Killer Mike guy, but tell me what you think, man.
Yeah, I'm very big. I see Killer Mike as a leader, as well as David Banner. He's one of my personal leaders, and people that I listen to their voice. They put something up there to read. It's like homework for me. I read it. If they put something up there to research, it's homework. I read it. So when this was coming up, I don't know if you saw my post before it actually came out. I was like, educate this coon. And then when you see the show, I look at it and I'm like, I have so much to learn on how to conduct myself with people who I see are my enemies. See, it's different from, we just disagree on stuff.
Right.
I generally like to talk to people in which we have a difference of opinion.
Right. Indeed.
If I see you as an opposer, as an enemy, I got a different behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point in time, I've got to check that. And I saw that as an example of I got a lot to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot to learn because you cannot create change without some relatability.
Mm-hmm.
We can disagree and we can relate, and that relatability is going to make you enthusiastic about, at least trying to hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that I was like that, but maybe I'm not. And I got a lot of work to do on myself.
Yeah. Like I said, I watched about 20 minutes of it, and it really was a masterclass of navigating that thing, especially as an interviewer. And Killer Mike still gave Herschel the avenue to speak his piece. You know what I mean? And to talk about the things that how he looks at the world and his perception, his ideas of things like that. And then he still wove in there the areas to give Herschel, it was very genius. He gave a way to make Herschel even look normal, quote unquote. Like, he's an average American guy, in a lot of his thoughts and ideas with certain things. And I just, it even goes back to when that famous Revolt conference when T.I. and Candace Owens was going back and forth.
Yep.
And they're going,
everybody.
Yeah. And Mike is just sitting there like, y'all basically arguing about whose master's the best. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, and he just can come in and like, yeah. He like, you argue with her. She's saying what Minister Farrakhan been saying for X amount of years. I'm just like, man, he's good at doing that, man. I mean, to me, Killer Mike is like a genius.
He connected the dots.
Yeah.
He's a genius.
Yeah, straight up.
He connected the dots where it's like, for us, Candace Parker is detestable.
Right. Candace Owens, yeah.
But Killer Mike could listen and differentiate. And the funny part about it is I love situations like this because it is a self-check.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking to a friend and a brother, and I'm trying to tell him, hey man, you have issues with discernment.
Mm-hmm.
I think that anybody can make a good argument for something and you'll listen to it and believe it because you don't have discernment. And when you run into issues like that, where Killer Mike is looking at Candace Owens and was like, you were right about this, you're right about that. Farrakhan says the same thing. You're right about this situation. I'm so caught up on how detestable she is, I'm not discerning the information that I would take from Minister Farrakhan, but I wouldn't take it from her.
Right.
So I got a lot to learn.
Yeah. Yep, indeed.
Hey, even on the Kendrick album, he talked about Kanye and Drake becoming friends again. He said, I was confused, but he said, it let me know I have a lot of learning, and I still have a lot of growing to do. And that's poignant within this conversation.
Right.
About, hey, you think that you're good and you think that you're in a certain place to be able to receive information until you're actually your foot's to the fire. You really find about who you are as a person and how you're really made up. And we're not always who we think we are or how we envision ourselves or portray ourselves to others.
Yeah. And it goes back to where we started with the Monique conversation, humility. And it's really a continual exercising of humility and checking our ego. You know what I'm saying? Because I always say on the pod, my biggest enemy is my ego. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing that I have to keep in check.
I will say this though. I have issues with humble.
Okay.
I have issues with the thought of humble.
Okay. Say more.
And I discuss this with my writing partner all the time, and he has a whole philosophy built around F humble.
Okay.
Right? And I don't know if I'm as stark as he is on it. I understand about keeping ego in check. For me, it's not about ego. It's about understanding your own greatness.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, understanding your own greatness, you don't have to speak about it. You don't have to live on it. But you also don't have to downplay it in order to make other people feel comfortable.
Indeed.
And to me, a lot of times, that's what humble is. I'm going to downplay things that I already know about myself in order for you to feel comfortable. Because if I had a certain amount of confidence, it would be abrasive to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily want to live my life like that. I don't want to walk around here egotistical, but there are certain things that I'm confident in, and I'm not afraid to be confident publicly. And I don't want people to feel like I need to be humbled by them to make them feel comfortable with a certain amount of greatness.
I like
and
that.
I think that those things get confused. There has to be a certain amount of balance. I think that if somebody were to give me my flowers, I would be humbled.
Mm-hmm.
I'm humbled by them. I'm not humbled by myself. I'm just not, if you say, hey, you're good at this, I'm not walking around going, oh, I know. But I do. I'm just not saying that. I'm not humbled. I'm just quiet.
Yeah.
I just have I think as I get older, I have a problem with the idea of humble.
Yeah, I think what it is, the key word, and my mentor Eric Young always, it's the life process is finding the balance. You already said that though, because humility versus confidence versus arrogance versus knowing my worth versus, you know what I'm saying, versus silencing myself. There's a marriage that has to happen in there, for all of that to coexist. And we're always fighting to find the balance in the marriage and in our marriages. We're fighting, how do all of those things relate? You know what I'm saying? Skeen, go ahead.
Yeah, I think as you talk about that, I think in certain aspects, you can say being humble is a governor.
Mm-hmm.
Like on your car, you can only go so far.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're looking at it from the aspect of being humble, maybe that's limiting your potential.
Right.
Trying to make other people comfortable.
Right.
You're dimming your light and limiting who you could really be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really know your full potential or your reach that you could have. Contrast to having a quiet confidence. Like, when you go hoop, certain people, and soon they walk through the door, you know who that is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not because that person is being arrogant.
Right.
It's just because they have a certain swagger or a certain self-belief that you see it the second they walk through the door.
Yeah.
Or when you listen to music, some people that rap, the second within the first couple bars, you know who that is.
Yep, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So contrast to, hey, I don't really want to like give my best work because I don't want to step on nobody's toes. So I think that there is a line that you do have to have a balancing act of where do I show my quiet dominance contrast to walking with my head down, because I don't want no one to feel a type of way.
Right. And
I think it comes from a personal place of, how we are. We came up in an era where you had to change yourself for people to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I changed my speech. I changed my posture. Yeah. I changed the way I walk. I changed the way that I talk. You know what I'm saying? In every situation I walk into, we come from a time when you got on the court for a certain high school, it was like, hey, what's with all of that spinning and stuff? Well, the defender was in front of him. We're not out here hot dogging, okay? This is a street ball.
Right.
Like, no.
Yeah.
We scored the point. It's like you got to humble yourself and play correctly. So we come from an era of changing yourself, and then I get to a point now where it's like, I'm done changing myself so people can be comfortable. Yeah. In every situation, I found that H word in front of me. Is okay. You got to be humble about this. Like, no, I don't. I just don't have to be egotistical about it. Right. But I'm not being humble. I'm not going to change myself so that you can feel comfortable with a little bit of success or greatness.
So is that a level of demasculation? Of emasculating you? You know what I'm saying?
It feels like it.
It's low key. It always felt like it. Yeah, to make to be humble is to take away some of your masculinity.
Right, because it's like Kai is saying, is really taking away some of your greatness. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it is to a certain extent. And like you said, when it's out of balance is when I feel like I got to do this again. So you're cool. You know what I'm saying? With my greatness. You know what I'm saying? There's some things I know that I am great at.
Well, how many of our greats would really be great if they took that approach?
Right. And that's where the balancing act of, again, like we say, greatness, some of the greatest people that we know, you would consider having the biggest ego, wide receivers, the Kanye West of the world, Michael Jordans, whoever.
Even Puff talked about, he used to walk down the street and talk to himself and say,
right,
I'm the greatest, I'm going to be this.
Right.
Even before he got fired as an intern.
Right.
He said, you walk down the street, talk to himself
right.
about his greatness.
Right. Yeah.
So there is a level of affirmation
but he had
that comes with telling. Go ahead.
True. You have to fuel yourself for sure. But I don't know if we talked about this, Jay. Did we talk about the Kanye documentary?
Skeens and I
Did we talk about that?
We talked a little bit.
But go ahead.
Well, you know how I feel about Kanye, but here's what irks me the most.
Yeah.
When you watch all of the footage from beginning to end, if you remember the time, if you know the story, in his humblest moment, when he was in New York and he was getting pooped on by Rockefeller, right? When he went back, first of all, he always went back to Mos Def, Talib Kweli, and Dave Chappelle, and they always put him on. But beyond that, when he was in his studio creating his own personal work, GLC was in the building. Rhyme Fest was in the building. Tony Williams was in the building. Consequence was in the building. These guys have been around from the very beginning, right? Now, when you watch him reach success, he's always saying, I did this. But like, wait a minute. You had a team from the very beginning.
Right.
You crossed the line from egotistical. Even a guy that has been documenting you for 10 years, as soon as you win a Grammy, can't even remember his name. There's a certain line that you cross, you know what I'm saying? He's egotistical. He's egotistical, he's braggadocio, he's way past the line. So you can't go past the line, but I think that's what irks me is that I don't think anybody makes it alone.
No. Nope.
I consider, like, right now, even I put one book out, right? Now, I did all of this writing in the dark by myself. The little bit of success that I've had has because, like, the people around me have done it. I can truly say, you don't do this stuff alone.
Right.
I'm not even, that's a microcosm of success compared to what and they never was alone. He never was alone. He never was alone. If you take away Tony Williams, if you take away Rhyme Fest, GLC, and Consequence, he still has Donda. And she was all he needed. If you watch it, every time he goes to her, it's like she recharges his whole battery.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
He was never alone. He never did it by himself. And the fact that you get to watch him all the time be super braggadocio and I did this and I did this. Like, you had a team from the very beginning, bro.
Yeah. And Kai, one of the parts of it that I loved, and that it really, again, stripping away the parts of Kanye that I don't agree with. And me being a guy that has a strong tie to my mom, I really identified with when he would go back. Like you said, it was kind of like she would set him straight. He would he's struggling and he's trying to get to these certain places. And when he's feeling down or he's getting out of shape, he goes back to Donda. And I mean, that chick was like, an oasis in the desert for him. You know what I mean? And he would get refreshed. He would get his encouragement and then he could go out again. And what I drew a parallel between Kanye and Mike Tyson. Donda for Kanye, Customato for Mike.
Customato, yes, sir.
And when you see what happens with these greats like this, I mean, these are all-time greats. And what happens in the trajectory of their life when you remove these figures like that. And like Kai is saying, you don't do it alone. And when you lose some of those guides and those elders that you have that helped you along the way, that path gets kind of, you know what I'm saying? And I really, really drew a huge comparison. Again, you look at how Mike was and his focus and all of this kind of stuff with Cuss versus when he didn't have Cuss.
Yeah.
Kanye, how he was with Donda versus when he didn't. And that key still, I think Mike is on the other side of his or in a further point, but Kanye is still recovering from the loss of his mom right now. Yeah. He's still in the phase.
Mike is completely on the other side. At this point, Mike is a voice that I listen to.
For sure, me too.
He's a sage on the mountaintop.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We talked about that before, the rebranding and of Mike, man, where he's like a freaking oracle now. You know what I'm saying? You know, he's on there checking cats. Again, he's one that talks about ego and stuff a lot, though. You know, checking that stuff for yourself. But
you know what? One thing, as you know, you all, when Kai was saying that Kanye has an ego.
Mm-hmm.
The way, but I look at him totally different.
How you look at him?
I think he's completely fragile. He's completely fragile.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they say, walk softly, carry a big stick.
Yeah.
He's talking. Okay. Tell you a movie. Do you remember American Pie?
Yeah.
What was the friend that wasn't sleeping with anybody, but he was out there putting the rumors about who he was?
I don't remember it good enough to say what his name was.
I can't think of his name. The one guy who was putting out all these rumors about all these great.
Yeah.
He's still a virgin.
Okay. Yeah. I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember his name.
That's Kanye.
Yeah.
He brags to get you to buy in to.
I got you.
The myth of Kanye.
Yeah.
And if you buy in, that actually recharges him to make him believe in the stuff what he put out because you believe in it. So now it reaffirms him to say, "Oh, I guess I am." That's why when he talked to Pharrell, when Pharrell played music, look at his face, like a kid.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You know, I will say this though. One thing that Kanye is genius at: word association.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, if I associate myself with certain things, you will too.
Exactly. And that's
I am Disney. I am Steve Jobs. I am this. This. Yeah. And if he says it enough, you'll do the same thing.
And he believes.
And it always bugs me. Yeah. And it always bugs me that everybody that he associates himself with is like white.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about that.
Anybody black.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
It's always somebody white.
Right. Yeah. Yep. I never thought about that.
Michelangelo, Disney.
Yep.
All of that stuff. I'm Louis Vuitton.
Yep. That's another.
And so he uses that as word association. And what people don't notice is all Kanye is a person that needs a muse.
Mm-hmm.
Kanye West's music has been his journey has been based on who he's associated with at that time. When College Dropout comes out, it's the neo soul crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Common, Dave Chappelle, Erykah Badu.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it sounded the way that it sounded.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing comes is Graduation. He's just hanging with T-Pain all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, it's 808's Heartbreaks. He discovered Kid Cudi and John Bryant. Next thing you know, it's Travis Scott, My Beautiful Twisted Dark Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, it's Pablo. He discovered Chance the Rapper.
Mm-hmm.
He always needs a muse, and based on who he's around is what his sound sounds like.
Right. Oh, that's a good point, Kai. Yeah. That's a good point.
He's a leech, man. He's a leech.
Well, and no one can name one solo artist in any aspect of life that did it by themselves.
No.
And as you talk about, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing as a successful solo artist in no aspect of life.
Right. Nope.
So he does kind of attach himself. I mean, no matter how you feel about Drake, you got people that say the same thing about Drake. Some of those different people, unfortunately, or no matter how you feel about it, there's a talent with understanding how to be a leech. There's a talent in there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think too, some of our favorite musicians again, it's about what you're going through, but it's also about who you're around. Yeah. And especially with somebody like Kanye, where I remember my man Sahai was like, the Kanye credits be so long because he's getting ideas from everybody to complete the record. You know what I'm saying? It's a dude walking the room and says something. Hey, make sure you get his information. He gets something to publish it on this. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. But that's it. Staying on the music, Kai. Man, let me get some of your deep dive on the Kendrick project, man.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to say as far as it goes with Kendrick. When you look at all the greats, everybody's missed at least once or a couple times. Everybody's missed. Kendrick has not missed. We're about 6 projects in. And I believe that if he puts out another project that is either a classic or a masterpiece, I don't really know what else to say. You've got introspection. You've got his music is important in time because his music is now chance and Activision, right? He's winning Pulitzers. He's combining genres. He's the most important. What to say? He's the most important conscious MC ever.
Okay.
There was a time in our time, you couldn't be, most knew that he was never going to be Jay-Z.
Right.
He's talking about too much. But Kendrick has the formula. He can be conscious and popular at the same time when people thought that those two couldn't happen. I think that Kendrick is one more album away from being the GOAT. To me, Jay is the GOAT. Nas and Mos Def are my favorite. But when you look at his body of work, the things that he says, the art that he has created, how he has been both popular and important. And I tell people this all the time, people that I mentor, people that I'm associated with. Do you want to be popular or do you want to be important? Because those two don't necessarily mix. Kendrick can do both. I think he's one more album from being the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
It feels weird to say that.
It does, but I mean, I'm not so partial to Jay. I'm lying. I am partial to Jay, but I'm not afraid to say that Kendrick, Skeens and I were talking, Kai. Kendrick, I can't even put him in a certain lane. He's in another place, right?
He's somewhere else.
I liken him to the part I was telling shout out to the homies, my boy Twiz and my boy Chuck. And me and Twiz have been saying for years that we're gonna eventually do an open mic somewhere. And I was talking about how when I first used to have ideas in my mind of doing stand-up, of how I thought of doing it, that now because of Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, I feel comfortable that I could do an open mic and just go up there and talk about stuff. You know what I'm saying? And from a place of interjecting humor, but more than humorous, I want to be thought-provoking and thoughtful. Kendrick has ascended to that same kind of place to me where I can't even put him in like a box of hip hop. And I told Skeens, admittedly, one of the first things when I was like on the anti-Drake thing, I was like, man, this dude on here basically doing R&B, but he's supposed to be a rapper and he's singing all the same little notes all the time. Oh yeah, oh hey, oh hey, oh. But I was trying to put Drake in a certain box, and as creative dudes and as a creative myself, now at 40, I'm like, I can't put these cats in a creative box. Kendrick has ascended to a place where I told Skeens this was my hot take. I think Skeens put a button on it some kind of way, but I was saying that Kendrick is what Andre 3000 would have been if he would have kept rapping. Basically, he's the evolution of that to me.
Don't get me started on Andre. Don't get me started. You don't want me to go there.
To me, he's the evolution because even in some of the ways his delivery, even in some of the ways how he I don't know the right word that I should use, but how he's using a certain kind of voices on different things like that he does sometimes, I can see that he's definitely an Andre 3000 student. You disagree with that?
A student of what? He gave you one, and he never came back.
What what you're saying is that his impact was not great though. I'm not that guy, Kai. Now, let me preface it with this. I'm not the guy that ranks Andre as super high as everybody else, because to me, he doesn't have enough material to be ranked there. And then it's the same thing where people would argue about when he would put out one verse a year. Joe Budden's like, it's easy at that tier of MC. It's easy to put out one verse a year to be fantastic. You know what I'm saying?
Andre should be ranked. Andre should be ranked up there, based on his work with Outkast.
Right.
But Andre 3000, nothing but the male Lauryn Hill.
Mm-hmm.
We love them for what they did in the group.
Right.
They gave you one master performance, and then they got shy.
Right.
And they left you, and they never came back.
Mm-hmm.
We got to stop mentioning them. We have to.
I don't know if I got to stop. Yeah, that's another one. But
it irks me that, I hear Joe Budden and them talk about Andre, how he's great. You can't be the great at nothing if you don't provide material. Yeah. And the thing that makes me mad about Andre 3000 is his explanation.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Did you hear his explanation?
He basically,
I was afraid.
Yeah.
On how they would judge me.
Yep.
Like, wait a minute.
You
trailblazed dressing, push boundaries open. Like, you're beyond that.
Right.
And if this is who this guy was, he does not deserve to be mentioned. He doesn't.
I'm not as harsh on Andre. I'm harsh on him because people would always say you have to rank him at a certain level as far as just MC. And we get into the debate again, like Kai said, we rank him there because primarily of what he did with Outkast. I mean, he has some crazy verses, and he had some crazy little. How many songs has he put out in this amount of time? Is it 5 or 6? I don't know. I don't know what the number is, but
maybe 4 verses.
You know what I'm saying? He put out a crazy 4 verses that people. I mean, the joint he did with Kanye was crazy. I was like, why?
It's all guest appearance.
Make that. You're talking about you worried about make that.
It's all guest appearances.
Right.
It's the Kanye song. It's 16 Ain't Enough. It's Walk It Out.
Yeah. The Walk It Out was one too. Yeah.
I think he did one for Frank Ocean.
He had a solo album. What was his best rap song on his solo album?
Man, I got to go back and listen to that.
It's pretty much all R&B for the most part.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But again, that goes back to I'm not putting him in a, you know what I'm saying?
You don't have to put him in a box, but you can't mention his name with all these other guys as if he's giving you something to do that for.
Now, the thing that kills me.
Because if you're going to do that with him, then you got to do it with Big Boy. Because that's when it was.
Right. That's my argument, too. That's my argument.
I was about to say. People sleep on Big Boy like Big Boy pen is not magnificent.
People act like Big Boy was just kind of innocent bystander on them records. Like, come on, man.
There are a lot of songs Big Boy out-rap 3000. Whether we want to admit it or not.
Absolutely.
Big Boy out.
I'm from Texas, and I love Pimp C. And I remember when when everybody thought of UGK, you think of Pimp C, like Bun B was not that guy.
Right.
Listen to Murder.
It's crazy.
Well,
sidebar.
Okay, go ahead.
When you were, you know what? Finish your thought.
No, I was just gonna piggyback off of. I was late to the UGK party, right? Because of y'all. I will tell y'all my rap origin story, but long story less long. I started off with rap. LL Cool J, I'm Bad, Run DMC, Houdini. My dad got saved. You ain't listening to none of that music. And my dad was such, and we talked about this recently. He's like, Jay, I just made you think I was a super investigator. I wasn't investigating that much. But I like, well, you put the fear in me that you was going to investigate me all the time. So I then came back, Kai, the first CD that I actually had in my house. It was a big gap. I was still listening to some music when I was out at the youth center or whatever it was. But the first CD that I had to actually study, my homeboy gave me 2 albums. I was in 10th grade. It was Nori, N-O-R-E.
Yes, sir.
And then it was Volume 3.
Oh yeah.
Jay-Z. Those were the two albums when I first got kind of fully reintroduced into rap. So I didn't know UGK.
Boy,
so
you missed the gap.
A huge gap. A huge gap. Outside of what I heard in the youth center, I didn't know there was no rap that I was at home digesting like that. So then when I started hearing about UGK when I got older and came back to Texas, and people was talking about Pimp C all the time. Pimp C, everybody Pimp C, Pimp C. So I started listening to UGK and I'm like, wait a minute, the guy is Bud B.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, Pimp, of course, as real and a street dude, you know, that kind of thing. But
Bun was a talent.
Bun was, I'm like, this to me is just.
Yeah. Bun was a talent.
Bun was the lyricist.
Yes.
Bun was the lyricist. Yeah. But Pimp was making the beats. Pimp was singing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? He had all the charisma. So it's hard to be standing next to that guy.
Yeah.
Pimp C's charisma was Andre 3000's dressing.
Right. And one of my homeboys was he'll send me this clip of when Pimp was a little interview. He's standing outside somewhere. Well, me and Mario love you gonna smell my cologne, but when he was saying, if you do something to my family, he was just so matter of fact, I will kill you. He's just like
Yeah.
Pimp was wrong. Man.
What was your side note? What was your sidebar?
100%.
What was your sidebar?
Side note, you got into you spoke about the open nights and you got into Dave and you got into Chris.
Yeah.
Have either of you watched Jared Carmichael's special, Roll Daniel?
I watched it 3 or 4 weeks ago.
No, I still haven't.
Yeah, I watched about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
It's on my to-do list though.
Yep.
I was late to it. I did not want to watch it because I thought it was cheesy. Oh, he comes out in this special, and I always thought he was a boring character.
Mm-hmm.
I found that special to be amazing.
But why so?
I thought that special was just the way that he engaged. It was a therapy session that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
It was a therapy session that was funny. To watch him go through it in real time. It's not an act. The guy's going through it. He's trying to find closure and reason, and he's still trying to be funny at the same time. It was amazing. And I felt bad that I didn't want to watch it because I thought it was hacky.
Okay.
It came out. But it was amazing to me, man. What were your thoughts?
Gerard, as I'm watching it, somebody might be able to look at it historically for me and tell me, but this is just my hot take. I think that Chris and Day, and now, Chris took it to, because Skeens will tell you, for the longest, I wasn't the biggest Chris Rock stand-up fan because I wanted to just always be ha, 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 ha all the time. But as I grew and evolved, it's just he was so thought-provoking to me. And, he sprinkled the funny in there. And now Dave, man, Dave is so ahead of his... I can't even explain the pure place that he is as a comedian, but now he's a thought leader. You know what I mean? To where the comedian, I'm not knocking the comedian. I still want to laugh and do that kind of thing, but I really am just so much more engaged by story and by experience now than I was before. That's what I'm engaged by, real life experience. And like you said, it's just that Gerard Kai, you still there?
Did we lose him?
I still see him there. Kai, you still there?
I'm still here. You got a little...
Okay, but...
You got a
yeah,
little...
but it's... It's just that looking at cats like that, it's the part of it, of course, it is that he's coming out, but more than anything, I just appreciate the perspective of his story. You know, and I saw some cats debating, you know, is this still stand up? You know, what is this now? You know what I mean? And it made me think back to who actually had because I used to try to digest anything that was performative like that. Who used to do a good show, and I'd have to go back and look. I could Google it, but anyway, John Leguizamo used to he had like a little one man thing that he did. I think he did a couple of them, two or three of them
on HBO.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
He did at least.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, and that's what it made me think that kind of some of this is just kind of evolving to this other place that I appreciate. But I really thought it was great for him to tell his truth that way. And like you said, he sprinkled in those things. I think he was talking about his partner was like his white king, or I can't remember what he said. One of them lies like that he was talking about.
You know what's funny is that the way that he's able, like what I found amazing was the way that he was able to step outside of his body and relate to me was weird. I've never seen it done before, right? He's talking and he's looking at one of the dudes in the audience and he was like, I feel the same way as you. Like I wake up and be like, man, I'm gay, man.
Right.
Like what the world, like he can't even believe it.
Right. He himself, it's crazy those two places that he's in as a gay man.
Like it felt like he broke a fifth wall.
Right. Yes, that's very good.
I found that to be amazing. At this point in my life, my favorite comedians are the thinkers.
Yes.
Pryor, Carlin, Chappelle, Patrice O'Neal, Bill Burr.
Yep.
All my favorite comedians are thinkers.
Yep.
I don't want the ha-ha jokes.
Yeah.
Y'all can have that. I want the thinkers. I want because that's what comedy is supposed to be. It's supposed to take everything that we understand in life, but add perspective to it and show it back to us in either ways we feel exactly the same way or ways that we never thought before.
Right. Yep.
If you're looking to just escape, I'm not looking for the escape of laughter for like an hour. That's for all the Cat Williams fans and all of that. That's cool. That's not my bag. I like the thinkers. Yep. Because that's what stage I'm at in my mind.
Yeah, it's really I've evolved my comedy taste. And there's a guy. Dang, I have to send this dude to you. He was in a show and a film. This dude is Skeens. I sent this to you with a dude. I think he's from Atlanta. And he's on, they got these clips that they would show Kyle where these people are in this small bar doing comedy. It's a little series. DL Hughley was on there. This guy, Joe Rogan, my man Ali Sadiq was on there. But this dude tells a story about when his dad picked him up and took him to the hood. But his dad was like a crackhead though.
I kind of remember.
Kai, it is one of the craziest stories of him talking about the part of him as a young man that wanted to have this connection with his dad when his dad would come and pick him up, but he takes him to like a dope house and his dad gives him some money and like takes it back to go get some dope. And then he takes the conversation further to where he sees this father and son, I think, out like shooting basketball or like throwing a football, and how it made him have anger towards his dad because they wasn't doing this. It's just crazy story. But again, it wasn't that it was so funny. It was sad, terrible,
right?
Thought-provoking, sprinkled with some humor. And I mean, it's one of the best stories I ever heard in my life, but I have gravitated. It really was Skeens that had me, because me and this dude didn't watch so much comedy over the years. He used to be talking about Chris Rock. I'm like, man, Chris Rock ain't really that funny to me like that. And then he's like, it ain't that he's funny.
It's relatable. It's relatable. Everything that Chris talks about is not funny.
Right.
But it's a real relatable situation that you can actually place yourself in. And that's one thing like what I used to love with Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
Richard was really like the king of, it wasn't just self-deprecation.
Yeah.
He would paint that picture to a point that you saw that you could actually place yourself as that person.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he removes himself out of certain situations, and he's a third person, like he's laughing at the pain of what he had to go through as that person. Mm-hmm. But as you listen to him, you place yourself in that person,
right,
into that dimension of being that person.
Right.
And that kind of ties, like you was talking about the Kendrick album. As I thought, it's basically an audio version of a therapy session.
That's exactly what Skeens said off top. That's what he said. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what certain people that we listen to, like you talking about Carmichael and certain, it's not the ha-ha that we need. It's the information and the opportunity to say, hey, let me understand, let me look at a different perspective to gain knowledge and insight. That's what that's really what we need more than anything.
Yep. True indeed. True.
When I look at Chris, I think that when he was in his prime, the thing that made him so dynamic was that he had something to say, first of all. And he became like a voice for us, which is, Richard Pryor was introspective. He spoke about himself and every evil, dark thing about himself.
Yeah.
And in doing so, he showed us ourselves. Carlin looked at the world as if he wasn't here and showed us ourselves. Chris wasn't funny to me. I just liked that he was a bold, dynamic voice for us.
Yeah.
Really loud. But at the same time as he existed, Bernie Mac existed.
Right.
And then shortly after he came, the Patrices started popping up. And so he had a short span of time for me, but when he was in his prime, he was our voice. And when you look at the Chris Rock show, which was amazing, it parallels with the Dave Chappelle show. They were sort of the same. But I don't think that he ever grew from that. And I don't necessarily think that he's funny now, but he'll give some nuggets every now and then. And the problem with the nuggets is that they're so far and few between that when he gives them, they become this thing that everybody attaches to. Like, men are the only things that is loved with condition.
Yeah.
That was a Chris Rock quote. And then a whole bunch of divorced men took that to the extreme. Took that to the extreme.
Right.
But I think that he has a certain spot. But I was never really big on Chris like that.
Yeah.
But he just at a run. He had his prime.
Oh yeah, he definitely
was a voice.
He did. He had his run, and it's, for me, I think, I can't remember what the last special, he had the black T-shirt on, but it was more
Tambourine.
Yeah, again, I can't really remember how much I laughed, but listening to him give his perspective on marriage and divorce and relationships and stuff like that, I'm like, I can understand that perspective better now. You know what I mean? But switching gears, I think the last thing I wanted to talk about from you two sports veterans is I want to get some of your thoughts on how the playoffs have played out, and go ahead and get your picks for the finals. How you think it's going to go? I'm going to go to GM Skeens first. Yeah,
Well, the playoff. Looking at the playoffs, is showing what I've always said for many years. It's not about super teams. It's about having an actual team. People go the whole super team model of you get 3 stars and you just put in anybody around those people. It don't really work. It kind of worked in Miami because LeBron was the top 2 player. D Wade was a top 5. These people at their prime, you can kind of do that.
Yeah.
But now they want to say, hey, get a super team and put LeBron them can't do that anymore. Golden State at their best, like the Lakers, like the Bulls, had a bench, power and numbers. But as I watched I love the way Boston play because they share the ball and they have defensively, they have a lot of inexchangeable players that any and everybody can guard the other person. Everybody understand their role, which was one of the greatest things with the Bulls.
Right.
Everyone and Golden State does the same thing.
Right.
Ball movement. Everybody understand their role. If I had to go with anybody, even though Steph is great, I would probably say Boston because defensively they have a lot more inexchangeable pieces, even though Golden State have the greatest shooters of all time.
King?
Well, I'm a very happy man, and I'm a very angry man at the same time.
Okay.
Right? I'll take issue with that, Skeens, as far as the super team goes, and I always get mad at this, right? When you look at Miami, LeBron joined forces with D-Wade. But if you remember, D-Wade was diminishing. Bosh, Bosh was great in Toronto, but in Miami, he was supposed to be the third guy. He was more like the fourth guy. Mario Chalmers and Shane Battier did more than he did. So ultimately, it comes down to, if you want to argue, the first or second greatest player of all time in his absolute prime being taught how to lead a team. If that's what you want to call a super team, that's cool. But Golden State is a super team. They were a super team when they won the championship. They were a super team when they got the second best player in the league to join the super team already that was winning the championship. You know what I'm saying? And they never get the flack for it because they built it organically, but they're still a super team. But all teams that won championships were super teams. Lake Show, Showtime Lakers, Boston, Spurs. They all were like super teams. You know what I'm saying? But I love the playoffs because I do not like Kevin Durant and I do not like Kyrie Irving when they got exposed. They got exposed in a major way.
Well, a lot of it was bad coaching, but also me and him just talked about, if you look at the NBA, a lot of the stars, the quote unquote stars, can't play defense. We praise them for putting up 30 and 40 points. Majority of the stars can't play a lick of defense. People expose Luka. Pick and roll, I want him to guard me.
Right.
No, he's going to get you 40.
Right, sure is.
But as a team, we're going to get 60 because we're going to go after him because I know he can't guard.
Right.
Trae Young, so on and so forth. There's so many of the stars, they are really one-sided players. But, as you talk about super teams. Go ahead.
It really was the physicality. It wasn't necessarily the defense. Kevin Durant, after he had been bumped about a good, I remember watching him, he got bumped about a good 9-10 times. And he was dead tired. He was frustrated. He wasn't used to that level of physicality.
Yeah.
And as far as coaching goes, how are you going to have a coach when the team already decided they don't need a coach?
Yeah. But
we'll coach ourselves.
That was horrible coaching. He got so you got 3 6'1" point guards, and you're playing half-court basketball. You're playing slow. That's already bad coaching.
He's never been a coach before.
Exactly.
He's never been a coach before. They chose him as a mascot because he was a trainer for them.
Yeah. And it exposed
that goes back to them with their egos. They just felt like we're the ones. Yeah. We're the ones who can do all of it, and they got exposed. And the teams that they left are in the championship now. It's the very same team for both of them. Now, I'm sad because I hate the Golden State Warriors so much, and I don't want them to be in the finals again. But I truly believe that if Miami would have won, they would have got swept. I think Boston can definitely beat them.
Yes. Boston's a better,
and I can't wait to see that. But I don't think they've decided. Everybody wants to go to Tatum, but I don't think Tatum has decided yet if he's that guy. I think him and Brown still look at each other like,
Tatum is going to be the next guy. The one thing about Tatum has the best footwork in basketball. Now you can tell he's a Kobe disciple by the way certain mannerism, and you see it. He has the best footwork in basketball. I think if Miami was healthy, Miami from a stylistic standpoint, Miami would have beat Boston if they was healthy. But like you said, Boston is a much better matchup against Golden State. But hate or love Golden State, they play the kind of basketball that I love. It's a lot of ball movement. Everyone's involved. The NBA now, you watch, there's a lot of pick and roll, and you got other people just standing around watching. It becomes boring basketball.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of and I'm a basketball fanatic. I would watch it 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, Lord.
It's boring to a point that I don't want to see 73s a game by play. And half the time, you got centers who should not be shooting a three, throwing it up, but because
that's what analytics. I would say. I would say that it's boring because the Warriors changed the game. Now it's a bunch of 2K people that are just shoot threes, and that's because of them.
Well, the analytics say shoot three.
I think they play first, right?
Yeah. And I think what people get lost, they looked at Golden State. Well, and we talk about a lot of the NBA is people say is Golden State. A lot of the NBA people try to be like D'Antoni. When D'Antoni has won nothing ever.
Right.
Everyone wants to small ball to 7 seconds or less shooting threes. Then they talk about Golden State shoot threes. One, you're not going to have the greatest shooters like Golden State. Right. And two, as much as Golden State shoot threes, a lot of Golden State shots are layups, mid-range. They shoot more mid-range jump shots than a lot of teams, especially when they had Durant. We look at the threes that they hit because, Clay and Steph going to hit 5 out of 10, or they get hot, go 7 out of 10. But as a team, they're not just jacking up unnecessary threes like a lot of teams are. And people try to play their game when you don't have the necessary pieces to beat them. If you go back when LeBron beat them that year when he was with Cleveland, why did they beat him? They was physical. They slowed the game down. They became very physical, and they said, "Hey, I know I can't. I'm not going to be outshoot you. We're going to slow the game down. We're going to make you every time you want to score. There's no fast breaks on your end. You're going to play against a set defense." Matthew Dellavedova made a whole lot of money because he was physical. He was a pest.
Oh yeah,
that's how you beat teams like that. And as you talk about Durant, this go with people talking about Durant would have played in the 90s. Boston was nowhere near as physical as the 90s or 2000 basketball. No. But that showed you the league ain't what is stylistically. It's a whole different ball game, and players back then had to play two. You had to play defense. Gary Payton gave you 20, but he also locked you down. Jordan locked you down. Pippen, a lot of those players played both sides. Now it's about the stats, and I get it. The league, from a league standpoint, they're about their globalization of the game. It's so much money in China and other countries that you got to make the game appealing to those different countries and make it that their players going to be able to come to the United States and play and thrive in a game that's similar to what they're used to. But as Charles Barkley said, they made the game easy for bad players. You don't have a player 10% of the players can actually post up now. That's a problem. When you got a 7-footer, they got a point guard on in the paint. Most of the league don't know how to move without the ball now.
Yeah.
It's a lot of standing around. If you can shoot a couple of corner threes, you can make $17, $20 million. Look at my man from Miami, the white guy. I can't think his name. Duncan Robinson. They paying him Duncan Robinson. They paying him $20 million a year, and it was most of the games he was unplayable because he can't defend.
Right.
He can't do anything but shoot threes.
Right.
Those guys back in the day,
specialty players.
Craig Hodges, Matt Bullock. You came in for a short period of time as a specialty player. You got out the game before you got exposed. Yeah. But now, just be a specialty guy. It's the easiest time to play basketball.
So again, what's your pick? Finals pick? And how many games?
I'm gonna go Boston in 7.
7-game series.
I'm gonna go 7.
Eesh, okay, King.
It's definitely going to 7. Unfortunately, the Warriors have championship pedigree.
Yeah.
But I'm going for Boston, and I think Boston can beat them if it goes to 7.
2 more questions. One basketball related, one not. Lakers next season. How we think they're gonna look?
Horrible. And I'm a Lakers fan. You know, I'm a deep Lakers fan. Even when we was going through it, but well, you don't have money.
Mm-hmm.
You have no draft picks, and you have just your 3 players that didn't blend, which everyone knew that before. You already over salary cap just with 3 players.
Do you agree with them not getting trading Russ or looking to trade him?
I would love to trade Russ. Yeah. I would have never brought Russ in.
I never would have brought him there anyway.
LeBron and Russ' best attribute is having the ball.
Right.
You take the ball out of either one of their hand. You're taking their best attribute away. Mm-hmm. Neither one of those players are really good at being off the ball. Mm-hmm. So now you got them in foreign territory. And when Russ don't put up great numbers, well, you want Russ to do something he hasn't did in 14 years. Be a spot-up shooter.
Right.
That's not his game.
No, not at all.
He's not a slasher. He has to have the ball in his hand.
Yeah.
Same thing with LeBron. LeBron's best attribute is his basketball IQ. Mm-hmm. Outside of his physical ability, of course, yeah. his best attribute is his IQ. And he makes plays with having the ball in his hand. You want to take the ball out of his hand and say, hey, I want you to run curls. He hasn't did it before. Right. He didn't do it in high school. Mm-hmm. So, and AD,
Anthony Street Clothes Davis.
Man, I've stood alone on this ledge and said Anthony Davis is the biggest mirage in NBA basketball. It's a lot of empty calories. Mm-hmm. Even at New Orleans, he put up big numbers. They never won. If you are a top 5 player, the least you should be able to do is get me to the playoffs every year and at least get to the second round. Other than 1 year with Boogie Cousins, who was the best center in the league. Yep. And you had Rondo. They won. They got to the second round. They beat Portland. Mm-hmm. Other than that, a lot of empty calories. Yeah. He stayed hurt. The bubble saved him. We had 2 or 3 months to sit down, get rested, and go to the bubble. If they would have had to play the whole season, minus the pandemic, he would have not made it through a whole season again. I'm sorry. He's brittle. He's Mr. Glass.
Kai, what was your thoughts on the Lakers Russell Westbrook experiment?
It didn't work. It never was gonna. It never was gonna work. I think that they got some moves to make. Ultimately, they can't get rid of Russ. It costs too much. Mm-hmm. Now, I think people forget it wasn't just Russ playing terrible, and he played like his powers got drained in Space Jam. I've never seen anything like that. But they weren't healthy. They just weren't healthy. Yeah. The problem is Anthony Davis is never going to be healthy. So you got to trade Anthony Davis.
I like that.
I think that if they could get rid of Anthony, I think if they could get rid of Anthony Davis and get some things back, they could work. I don't care what, man, even at his age, he's averaging 30. He's a MVP candidate. I always trust a guy that can go to 8 straight finals in a row. Mm-hmm. He just knows how to do it if he has the correct pieces around him. He can make anything work. They got to trade Anthony Davis and get some pieces, or they got to make some major changes. But I never count LeBron James out until he retires.
Yeah, I heard that.
I don't think they're going to get us because it just costs too much.
Yeah,
they got to do something drastic.
And they had a lot of old players. Now LeBron could, and that's what I was talking about. When LeBron was at Miami, LeBron controlled the pace of the game. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like if you watch Luka, he controls every aspect of the game by the pressure he puts on the team by going downhill and he controlled the game defensively. Mm-hmm. LeBron now is at a point he can still give me 30.
Right.
He can't bring a team full of nothing.
Right.
To the playoffs anymore.
Right.
He doesn't control the pace of the game.
Right.
that same way. And then you give him a team full of old players.
Right. That was the part.
Extra old. And then you had a lot of old players, majority, never played defense in their life.
Right.
They couldn't play defense. When willing,
they even had some of their main players that never even played the season because they were injured.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things get lost in translation, and you blame it on Westbrook. But you know, they got 3 prospects. Paul George has been showing a lot of attention to the Lakers. Pelinka has been talking with some Nets people, even though it'd be frowned upon to bring Kyrie. Those guys know how to work together. And Damian Lillard is always a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
So if you offer Anthony Davis and some pieces, you can make those things work. I think they just need some drastic changes. But if you put role players who know how to play their role around LeBron James, he can get you. He can get you to at least the Western Conference Finals.
Well, the thing is, they have nothing to offer. They have no youth. They got rid of all of their youth to get Anthony Davis. They got rid of all of their draft picks, which I don't understand. Rob Pelinka, he was basically bidding against himself. Anthony Davis wasn't going to go anywhere but the Lakers. And he only had 1 more year in the contract. You could have got him for free. Yeah. If he would have waited 1 more year. So you got to ring
out of it though.
Yeah. And that, is the ring worth 10 years of being in the toilet?
No.
Because that's really what we're looking at. Because you don't have a draft pick to 2027.
But if they could accept it, if they could accept that from Kobe, you know, Kobe got you 2 rings with teams that they thought was garbage. But if you actually look at that team, it wasn't garbage. But he got you 2 rings, and then the next 6 years were terrible, and they just kept giving him money. But they let him go because it was Kobe Bryant. So if they can accept it from Kobe, they'd be all right.
Well, you got to think. Well, Kobe got you 5 total.
We're looking at just the by himself rings, but it was
no. What I'm saying is,
Shaq and Fisher and them got you 3.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
and he wasn't by himself.
No. What I'm saying is, his legacy as being a part of the Lakers got you 5.
Lore of Laker. Kobe's considered part of 5
as a career. Got you 5. But also,
let me tell you something.
Being there also brought you a lot of. It generated a lot of money. Being there, so okay, he got paid handsomely his last couple of years, but the money he got paid is pennies compared to the kind of money that he was bringing in. Because you got to think, Kobe's going to Japan and China year after year, and all that money he was getting his cut. But a lot of that drawn up a lot of Laker fans, whether they was already Lakers fans or brand new.
Let me ask you this. When he was getting paid that money, he was injured. And he wasn't playing well if he was playing at all. And they were done for like 6 straight seasons. And it's the same question. You asked me, is a ring worth that many years in the dumps? Well, was paying Kobe for his previous success worth the 6 years that followed that? He doesn't have any finals MVPs.
Yes.
Outside of, how many? When you have, how many finals MVPs did he have when he played with Shaq?
None, because it was Shaq, the most dominant player of all time. Now, he got his 2 on his own, and that redeemed his career. But let's be real about it. Had those Lakers, without Shaq, faced the Sixers with Iverson, they would have lost. The only reason Iverson's Sixers lost to the Lakers is because they could do nothing about Shaq.
Well, at that time,
they could do nothing. He was by himself.
At that time, no one could do anything with Shaq.
Yeah, I mean,
but at the same time,
nobody could do nothing.
That's a cheat code. That's a cheat code.
But at the same time, Steve Nash won back-to-back rings. MVPs. So the game is a lot of flawed when it comes to
I'm talking about finals MVPs. So you can't just be given.
No. I'm just saying.
Andre Iguodala is the only person that was given a Finals MVP for holding LeBron James to an average of 40 points.
But also when you look at Kobe's, but see the thing is that Kobe contract was only like 2 or 3 years. It wasn't that long.
They couldn't really build that team back because they gave him all that money.
Well, it wasn't just that. You forget, they had a lot of bad contracts. It wasn't. Now, they paid him 2 years, $60 million. Yes, bad contract, but it was also a lifetime achievement award
for sure
for what he did. It was almost like his contract was almost, it wasn't as bad as Jordan's. It was a lot of years. He got paid, but he wasn't getting paid for several years. The last 2 years, they paid him handsomely, but they also had Steve Nash on the books. They paid Steve Nash like 3 years, 20. He was making like $9 million a year. Steve Nash never played. And he said that he was going to ride it out and get that check. He was on the books. You had the Lou Aldane contract on the books later on. You had
that was a terrible.
You had, and they just got him off the books. They had a precious contract. Lou Aldane just came off the books.
He just came off the books.
You had Dwight Howard. They was paying handsomely, and his money came off the books.
And the funny part about that, sidebar is, I hate how we always talk about super teams in association with LeBron, as if the Lakers weren't trying to do that. They tried to do that with Steve Nash.
Yeah,
but the two times that the Lakers tried to build a super team,
it doesn't work
around Kobe Bryant, it failed. So we don't think about it. And he was trying to get Carmelo Anthony, but Carmelo wanted the money.
Yeah, and that's why I say this.
So he was one of those guys who was trying to recruit major players that just didn't work out.
Well, and that's why I would say the super team thing doesn't work when we're looking at stars, because there's only one ball. The third star has to become a glorified role player.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Kevin Love when he played with Cleveland.
Yeah.
Prior to
so it does work.
No, not really.
If you know your role.
What I'm saying is the more sustainable route is having two stars, but having a team. You got to have a pipeline of good players. So say for instance, because we see with these super teams, one injury destroys your whole team. Look when Kawhi and them played. They played Golden State. Durant hurt his leg and hurt his knee. It was over. That one, those certain super team, because to get Durant, Golden State had to get rid of all of their bench, because their motto used to be power and strength in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They had a great bench. The Lakers, when they won, they had a great bench. The Bulls, when they won, had a great bench. You gotta have some youth. You gotta have, so it'd be nice when the stars may not have it. You got some guys who are eager to come out there and show themselves. Or, hey, Jordan or Kobe may need 5 minutes. I got guys I can put them in the game and I can trust that they're gonna maintain the lead, if not grow it. We had Jordan Farmar, some of the Sasha Vujacic, certain guys come out, they came out and they had confidence. Why? Because they played against the best player in their position in practice. But now when you look at it, the third player is a glorified role player. You're gonna pay Kevin Love $40 million.
Mm-hmm.
and what you gonna pay the rest of the league? Because once again, LeBron he's not in the 20s anymore.
Right.
Some of these stars and these super teams are older players now. You can't do that super team model when they're older. Now, if they're in their prime, yes, you can do that, because from an energy standpoint, yeah, you can do that. Look at Boston. Organically, they build a team organically with a lot of good role players.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could say then you got two good players with Tatum and Brown. They have a good team that one injury doesn't mess them up. Look at Miami. The second Jimmy Butler got hurt, that series was done.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy willed his way back in Game 6 and played good in Game 7. The second he got hurt, that series was over.
Man, matter of fact, for Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Butler, that boy is a straight up dog. Got that dog in it. But to put a button on this, first of all, I'm not gonna let Kai sit here and try to compare Kobe's contribution to LA, the Lakers being there all that time, to we talking about LeBron and AD. That's not the same thing, man. That's not the same thing.
Come on, man.
That's not the same thing. That's not the same thing.
Come on, man.
That's not the same thing.
I think that you. It's the same thing with Jordan. We forget all the bad things. We only remember the success.
No. I'm fair and partial to whether it's Kobe to Jordan to Jay-Z when he put out a whack verse, but I'm just saying in the lore and history of Laker.
No, I'm not. I was only comparing I don't think LeBron will be there long enough to compare.
Okay.
I mean, he got him a ring, and people they say they put an asterisk on the bubble.
They do,
which is hilarious.
Why, Kai? You don't put an asterisk on the bubble?
I absolutely do not.
You tripping? But go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me break this down for you. You have never seen a season like that.
Okay.
You take all the greats. Michael and them never had to navigate COVID. They never had to navigate social, political issues. They never interrupted the sport.
Okay.
LeBron had to go in there and stop the Clippers from leaving because of the George Floyd situation.
Mm-hmm.
They never had to navigate those situations.
Okay.
They never had to be in these dorms and concentration camps where it starts to affect players mentally and psychologically. He had to navigate through all of that as an older player, stay in shape, keep his crew together, and get through all of that when all these other players are going insane. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They're dealing with social issues. They're dealing with a global pandemic, playing empty. That season probably was harder than any other season that we've ever seen. People think it's a bubble. People thought it was weak because there was no fans.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And if that's your mentality, that's a weak mentality. You like his ring is plastic because there was no fans. But what they're not seeing is these people, like, just social political climate almost wrecked the season. A global pandemic in which players have to be taken out and been put on protocol. Players are getting COVID and still trying to. It's amazing how they even navigated through that. He held his team together and fought through that, then went through all the psychological stuff of being separated from your family. You've never seen a harder season in your life. That ring should count more, not less. And when you ask people why they think why it should be less, it's because they say, well, there was no fans there or people didn't want to be there. Well, that means the cream rise to the top. If you're psychologically weak, you don't deserve to win a championship. Only the strong survive. It should count more.
Now, y'all, this is how I'm going to. He's my brother. And what I love about him and hate about him at the same time, because he's an author and a wordsmith, he sounds so passionate and emboldened, so it sounds good. But what is he talking about? Absolutely. If you tell me, you and Skeens right now, check this out. We're going to fly you out to Florida to stay in a resort, and y'all just going to hoop and lift weights and have food brought to you every day and still get the same money. And, oh, by the way, Kai, you acting like there's no... It's the same reason why cats play different at home versus on the road and all this kind of. You in a bubble sitting there playing glorified scrimmages against each other, man. That's my side of it. Now, the part that I will give you is that, again, they're navigating the pandemic and all that kind of stuff the same way that we all were. People talk about the pandemic and work and stuff. I'm not an NBA player, but y'all, working as a property manager on Fort Hood Army Base, I've been going to work every day this entire time. Nothing has changed. I'll let you cook. I've been going to work every day. Skeens, nothing has changed. Skeens was working from the crib. My wife was working from the crib. Jay, y'all, has been going to every day taking care of business as usual, right? But I will give you, and you're talking about the mentality. I think it says something to the mentality. One of my coworkers, who was a little bit younger than my father, but was in the military at the same time. Ironically, he's a hooper. He's playing college, played for the military, all this other kind of stuff, was communication guy. He talks about the difference of our mentality these days versus before. We talking about, and again, understand me, y'all. I'm not knocking anybody, and I can't tell anybody what their mental health journey or anything like that is. But comparatively speaking, he talks about going when he first got to Iraq and he was there with his soldiers, that they didn't actually have cots. And a lot of the senior NCOs were getting cots. And what he did is he made sure that his soldiers got cots. And he actually, what you put the tents together with, and the fabric or whatever the tent. He slept on the poles in a war zone. We talking about we in Florida at a resort. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? He was telling me the other day, he said,
Okay.
Jay, when you would go over there, he's like, there wasn't no dividers in the bathroom. You doing what you got to do. It's a cat sit next to you in a war zone. Cats came out all right. Now we talking about I was away. Now you going and talking to your kids and your wife on FaceTime every day, seeing what they doing, looking at them. Hey, daddy, miss you too. This ain't where back in the day when we had to write a letter to a cat. I didn't hear from my dad when he was in Saudi Arabia for, however long. We would catch him on the phone every once in a while, but it wasn't this day and age where I could actually look at him and see him. These cats got all of this afforded to them, but we saying this was the hardest mentally? Man, stop. Anyway, go ahead, King.
Jay.
Go ahead.
I actually agree with you. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. I actually agree with you.
Okay.
So shouldn't he get credit for, hey, man, like, this is not that serious. However, as far as team chemistry goes,
gotcha.
If you grab one of them waitresses that are serving you dinner and y'all do your thing, you're on COVID protocol, and now we are missing an essential member of our team when we're playing stuff. But he held that together while you got people like Paul George and maybe 10 other players that were like, I felt like I was going insane in there and it affected me psychologically. I had to go get therapy. LeBron didn't have those issues. That should count.
I'm not saying it don't count, but I don't rank it the same.
It exposes you. It exposes, like we praise Reggie Miller for their war with the daggone Knicks. And when you watch Winning Time, the documentary, you see Starks have to go to the 3-point line and deal with that psychologically and miss that. Remember that?
Right.
That was just the 3-point line. Yeah. That's not dealing with cops killing people and it's affecting your brain. And if I get sick, you got millions of people dying and we don't know who's going to get what. And everybody's on protocol. So you don't know, everything's up in the air. Holding that psychological, like, man, them players never have to deal with that. I'm not saying that they're not privileged people. I'm saying that only the strong survive. So if those players got exposed, all those other players got exposed for being mentally weak, dealing with the uncertainty of life. And I know this as a essential worker.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, other guys are like, look, this is what we do. Put on a hard hat. Let's go win this championship. That should not be an asterisk because it's not weak that they didn't play in front of a crowd. It's like the stuff that they had to deal with. Man, Mike and them never had to deal with that stuff. Mike said, I make shoes for Republicans and Democrats. That's the most he ever had to deal with any type of social political issue.
You think if you put Mike in a bubble that he's still not going to bust heads? Like,
no, this is my point. Everybody is like, the reason that people say that there's an asterisk in front of that ring is because it's LeBron James. Had that been Kobe Bryant, it would have counted. You know why? Because they mess with Kobe Bryant and they mess with Michael Jordan. And if put in the same situation, they just would have said that Mike and Kobe have a killer mentality and that's why they won that ring. But because it's LeBron James, it's an asterisk.
I give you that's the truth. I give you some credence, and he's the resident LeBron apologist on the podcast. But anyway, I will give you that. I give LeBron props for being able to, again, rise to the occasion amongst all the people that were there. But do I equate it as being as hard or harder than other roads to championships? No. I feel like you take a level. Again, I don't know, for me as a man, when we are focused on our mission, we compartmentalize and focus on the mission at hand. I don't know how much police brutality and social political stuff that was going on, how much that was impacting them dudes when they had to lock down and focus in the bubble and play basketball every day. And as a matter of fact, here's another level of honesty that I can give you. If you put me in a place where I could just focus on work and my wife ain't there, my kids ain't there, Kai, bruh, you just giving me more. I can lock in more. That stuff that's not taking me away from focusing on the mission that I gotta accomplish. Actually, I ain't gotta make no other decisions out there. Everything.
Here's what I'll say to that. I was essential personnel when COVID first started. Working at a factory because we produced all the bread in San Antonio. Now I'm watching this disease destroy department after department and get closer and closer and closer to me.
Right.
It's messing with me. I can lock in. I'm working 2 different machines, but I'm watching COVID shut down all these apartments. I'm watching 4 people come to work, and then the next week they're dead. And we got to keep working in this place because we're essential personnel. We're not getting no raises, none of that stuff. That affects me. Now, you already know how I feel about political issues when it comes to my people.
Absolutely.
But I remember the day that Nipsey died, I didn't want to come to work for weeks. That affected me. So you never know how things affect people. I know how. When you look at LeBron James, you're like, well, he never had to play in front of a crazy home crowd. Spence been to 11 finals. Do you think a crowd bothers LeBron James? He gonna go and win that chip. Either way. So what having a ruckus crowd would have done to LeBron James? You know what bothers LeBron James? Scoring 51 points and then J.R. Smith being smoked out and make a bad decision and cost you the game.
I got you.
So it should, I just think that I don't think it's fair. I think if that was Kobe that won that championship, they were like, he got a killer mentality. And he got that despite all the crap. But when it's LeBron James, they were like, it was weak.
There might be something to that.
He's weak.
Now, Skeens, you've been quiet, but while me and Kai have been going back and forth. But
I'm just listening and enjoying. Now, the one thing about Kobe, I think the Kobe love is revisionist history. It's like Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, for sure.
People forget a lot of people.
Wait. Now watch how he is. Listen, watch what you see what he's doing.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is, people hated Ali,
right,
for many years.
True. Yeah.
The same way Kobe. Yes. People hated Kobe for many years. It's not until now you start seeing the Kobe love. Yeah. The same way with Ali. When Ali was out there talking and telling people,
no, he wasn't loved like that.
Everything that came to his mind, they hated him. It wasn't until he was a guy that went, unfortunately, during the Olympics in Atlanta when he was shaking, trying to light the candle, and he can no longer enunciate his words correctly. Yep. Now the love for him shows. Yep. So it's the same thing with Kobe. That's what I'm saying. Comparing, it's revisionist history. A lot of players, because for many years people talk about people don't want to go to LA and play with Kobe. Because now everybody loved Kobe. Now the thing you come to find out, it was many players in the league that Kobe actually mentored a lot of young guys.
We just didn't know it though.
We didn't know it, but
that was later on. That was when he knew he was on the way out.
Well,
because for the majority of his career, he was a terrible teammate.
Well, Kyrie and different players like that, they always said he mentored them for many years. He just never said anything.
But that was later on. That's gentleman Kobe on his way out the door.
No, even D Rose. When D Rose won
the as a Spurs fan, I hated Kobe for about 16 years of his career.
And this is
when I knew he was on his way out, I didn't want to see an NBA without Kobe Bryant. I love hating you.
And this is what I'm talking about the revisionist history.
We all
revise. So when you're saying people love Kobe, they love him post basketball.
Right.
The love now is being so it's not all people said Kobe. I once again am a Laker fan.
Right.
I've heard people hate Kobe for many, many years.
Right.
Which I never cared because I'm about the Lakers. Now when we talk about the bubble, right? And I know you're talking about the cots. These people were living in 5-star hotels. Now it's not the 10,000 square foot house that they lived in. But I look at the amenities that they had and I compare it to we're not going to talk about Jordan. We're talking about Magic, Bird. Those players rode buses from state to state to go play. Now the players are now getting in hotels. I mean, they getting private jets that fly them from LA to New York in hours. Contrast to 16-hour bus rides, and so on and so forth. Even in the bubble, I'm excluding LeBron. Right, certain players played better in the bubble because there is an anxiety with playing in front of the crowds. I saw TJ Warren put up 40 and 50-point games, game after game. If you watch TJ Warren, I watched him in high school and in North Carolina State in college. He wasn't putting those kind of numbers up prior to the bubble. I watched KCP play very well in the bubble. I've watched KCP, even from Georgia on in many years in the Lakers, play very horrible even before that. So it's certain players played better in the bubble because there was, to a certain extent, there was some level of, it was a little bit less pressure on some of those guys because you didn't have to deal with the crowd, good or bad. There's some people that are affected by the crowd. That's why DMC became an alcoholic, because he had to drink every night to be in front of the crowd. Some people have that anxiety in front of crowds. You have some of those players, those same guys that look great in summer league at the YMCAs and some different places. They play great, but then when they get to the league, when it's crowds there, some of those guys are horrible. Now you watch them in the summer, they look great. Like, man, I don't know why this dude he don't get any playing time. You see him during the league, when the lights are on, you realize that he's no good in certain situations. And for certain players, like I said, Anthony Davis, I think the bubble was a great thing for him because those couple months off allowed his body to recover and not become broken down. So I'm not excluding LeBron because LeBron is who LeBron is.
Yep.
Certain players, that bubble actually enhanced the comfort with them. And then some guys also, being in the bubble was a great thing because you talk about J.R. Smith being high, and then even when he was in New York, they were talking about him being drunk with Rihanna and different people like that before games. In the bubble, you had to focus on nothing but basketball. There's no nightlife to keep you in trouble. And when you come into the game,
yeah, guys were still getting in trouble.
Well, yeah, I mean, for the most part, yeah. But what I'm saying is, there was a lot less distractions in the bubble, which a lot of guys is almost like when you see a knucklehead in the streets. Hey, he may need to go to the military for structure and discipline. That bubble for some of those guys was that structure and discipline.
I agree.
Okay, I'll give you that, but I'll say this: 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
As far as people saying, well, certain players got better in the bubble because the game had changed for them. There's a lot less pressure. Well, some players are better in today's atmosphere when all you can do is shoot from the outside and they don't have the pressure from going inside and having to deal with the paint and getting fouled hard and stuff like that. So that balances itself out. Now, as far as these guys were in Florida dealing with amenities. Let's say Jay, Skeens, and Phoenix, let's go to Vegas. And we all go to Vegas and we get this nice hotel. Like each one of us has a room next to each other. And we're going to be there for 4 weeks. It's like, yo, this is a nice hotel, man. We're in Vegas. Okay, nobody's allowed to leave their hotel room, though. Like, y'all can have PlayStations, and we're in Vegas, but you can't leave your hotel room. How many days before it gets real old?
I'm a recluse.
Like, we can communicate with each other through Skype, but 4 weeks of stay in your room, though. You're in Vegas, and they have great, food service and stuff, but stay in your room.
I can easily pull it off.
It changes things up a little bit.
Right, I give you that. Now you talking to two cats.
I just was in Dallas in the hotel room, being in there for 2 days, and you ain't going out there and doing nothing. You just sitting in that daggone hotel room. It hit a little different.
And y'all, the part where I'm gonna say I love Kai. Y'all that don't know Kai, the fact that he said sitting in the daggone room for me and for the audience of my pod, he's the real MVP.
I love you.
Oh, my man. Okay, we went on that for much longer than I thought we would. But lastly, to close out, beautiful. I don't know. I can't remember what shot that was, but Tank Davis, man.
Oh man,
this dude,
man.
He has it's like these guys. I don't know who I think that his toughest challenge has been so far, but it's just like Tank. No matter what happens in the fight, he has the greatest equalizer Even in these times when these guys think that they can, or just like I can't remember the dude he knocked out with that uppercut after he hit him with a good shot. My man touched him with a decent shot, and yes, thank you. And Tank just out of nowhere, man. And the beauty of that shot, though, is that he was able to get out of the way. He threw that wonderful shot and let my man fall into the ropes, got out the way, was ready to return some more fire to him. But I'm just like, I don't know who I think can beat Tank Davis right now.
Haney. Him and Devin got a fight.
I don't think he can beat him, though.
Haney ain't beating Tank.
Haney can box, but he doesn't have enough power to.
Yeah.
Haney is light. Haney is light in the pants, and he's got a problem on his hands next week.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and if he ain't at his sharpest, he losing that belt.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because
Haney is not playing. As far as Tank goes, man, look, people are strong and they punch hard. And they think they can stand in front of somebody who has skill. It just doesn't work that way. All he did was allow this guy to walk into. I mean, if you're a boxer, you understand trapping.
Yep.
I've got to make you comfortable doing certain things. If you are comfortable pushing me to the ropes, I'll spot you 4 rounds. I'll spot you 4.
Yeah, right.
And to get so comfortable doing that you just continue listening. You know what I'm saying? All he did was just run my man into a trap because my man is all punch and all strength. But you're dealing with a professional champion with skill. He just ran into a trap. That's it. This guy wasn't on his level. Cruz was his hardest fight because he broke his hand, and Cruz ain't little Pitbull Cruz was nothing to play with.
Yeah,
he won that fight, but he had to survive.
Yeah.
Haney's too light. Haney's too light in the pants, man. He can break you down, but Linares showed him what a punch can do to you. And he's very punchy. And if you catch Haney on the chin, he's gonna go rubber legs on you. I think Teofimo would be a good
Lopez,
fight.
that'd be a good fight.
Yeah, Teofimo would be a good fight.
And I don't know.
Gary Russell.
Yeah, I forgot about. I hadn't thought about Gary Russell in a while.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
Yeah. I don't know if Haney can go a full 12 rounds against Tank and not get touched.
Yeah.
I don't think he can do it. I don't think he can. And like you said, Tank is just a professional executioner in landing well-timed shots. Even when he fought, like you said, I think it was in that section before he hit him with the uppercut, he had touched him with, I think it was a right hand. And then he threw 3 more, the same. And I'm like, against Tank.
If you watch the fight, he was doing it all night. Right. He was doing the same punch.
And I'm like, Tank is like, okay, I'm going to, like you said, I'm going to let you get comfortable doing this, but I have this other piece here for you. And it was the uppercut. It was all she wrote. You know what I'm saying? He's strong. He's fast. Like you said, he's not just a plod forward, heavy-handed fighter. He has actually some skill to him. So, I think,
he's at the point of maturity where power meets skill.
There you go.
Power and skill. And he's what's most impressive about the performance to me was the post-fight interview. He showed a level of maturity. They had bad blood. They hated each other.
Yep.
But in the interview, he was very respectful and he was very mature. And that's really what I was impressed with. Because he could have rubbed his face all in it. And Rolly left the ring.
Yeah, he did. He did, man. He did.
And he didn't even respond to it.
He
was very mature.
He talking about they need to run it back. I was like, nah, y'all need to run that back. Y'all need to run that back, man.
You made it to halftime.
Right.
You got knocked out halftime. You get to like round 9.
Right. I'm like, he really feels that he did enough that it was so close that was a run back. I'm like, bruh. He had you face first in the ropes, and the ref keep having to tell you to come to the neutral court. Like, ref was like, nah, this kid ain't ready, man.
This is how you know you're not a real fighter. Is when he was like, I exposed him.
Right. I forgot he said that.
Like, bro, you won everything but the fight. What are you talking about? If you won every round or you lost the fight, man, go back to the drawing board.
Absolutely, man. So,
you see, Earl is telling Crawford to go and sign the contract.
They saying it's pretty much a done deal.
Well, they were saying Crawford was asking for a crazy amount of money. That was a rumor.
Who's the A side of this fight?
Spence.
As far as I'm concerned,
Spence is.
I don't think so.
Well,
I think Crawford is the A side.
Well, I'm just talking about drawing power. He just put 40.
Crawford can do the same thing.
Well, how many?
If you notice, Spence fights a lot in Texas.
Yeah.
He's from Texas.
Yeah.
But
still wrong.
Crawford has been pound for pound list. He's got more belts.
Yes.
He's the A side.
But also, what I'm saying is, I'm talking about drawing power. There's a lot of Crawford fights that was for free on ESPN. A lot of it.
Yeah.
Okay. When he fights the same opponents that Errol fights, he sells out more and he beats them better.
I'm just looking at drawing power.
I have to look at the tickets. I don't know who's. I mean, I'm just curious of what I have to do some research on. I wonder what Terrence is. What type of money he's asking for.
I'm not for sure, but that was a rumor that he was talking about.
Kai, what's Terrence purses that he's getting these days?
He's still been getting done in bad by his management.
Everybody's in the low millions,
mm-hmm.
but you got to understand he's already an entrepreneur and he's from Oklahoma, so he doesn't live big. So he's not a Mayweather's type of guy.
Nebraska, yeah.
He fights predominantly in LA and Vegas, whereas Errol Spence fights a lot at home. He's got the rappers and all that stuff, the Texas, but he's fighting in AT&T Stadium. And that's why it seems like he's got the acclaim, but he's not making those same numbers when he goes to Vegas.
Well, but
Terrence Crawford is.
But regardless of where it's at, a sale is a sale. I'm just looking at tickets. So even in Jerry's world,
Vegas is different from Dallas.
I got it, but I'm just saying in Jerry's world, you still got to get somebody to buy those tickets. Even though it's a home, it's a home court advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody still has to buy those tickets. Like I said, that last fight was.
A side is not relative to who puts the butts in the seat.
Well, that's
how they going. That's how they going to negotiate it, though.
Exactly, because even when you look at Floyd, he said, they coming to see me now, regardless of Floyd's record.
Yeah, but Floyd had all the belts. Floyd was a pound for pound fight, was the top of the pound for pound list. See, that's how he can negotiate.
Exactly.
Aside from putting butts in the seat, I've got all the acclaim. Errol Spence doesn't have that. He's got to come and try and take all the belts.
Well, yeah, he has to come take the belts, but what's the belts if no one wants to see you? So, and that's the reason. No. What I'm saying is, I'm looking at it from the perspective of the negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
Who's drawing?
You're on a promoter side, for sure.
and that's
right.
And that's the mindset that you're looking at when you talk about negotiation. Who's bringing more value?
You got to remember, you're arguing for pretty much the most coveted fight in the last 8 to 9 years.
Oh yeah.
Like this is like a funny argument. This is the fight that everybody wants to see.
100%.
You can't argue who puts butts in seats. This fight is going to put all the butts in all the seats.
Right. So I think hopefully they come to like a middle ground of, I don't know what it's going to be, but these guys are usually 60-40, 70-30.
They can just do a sliding scale. Hey, we got a sliding scale. Winner, either way, get to 70.
Right.
Call it a day.
Whatever it
70,
is.
30. If I win,
70-30,
70-30, you win 70-30. Just keep it.
Yeah.
Just make it even like that. And then I see Boost Ennis won't.
See, I wouldn't even worry about that. I'd just be like, let's discuss back end. Let's discuss the back end.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care nothing about that split. Let's talk about the back end and the sales for the TV.
Mm.
Yeah, but Bob, he went back with Bob Arum. He's not getting back in. Come on now.
I gotta pull up Terrence's purses to see.
Crawford went back with Bob Arum. He's not getting back in.
I gotta look at some of his purses that he's got.
Crawford going back to Arum?
I'm pretty sure he did because he was a free agent. I'm pretty sure he went back.
Crawford didn't go back to Arum.
He didn't.
We'll look at it.
Shakur is about to leave Arum. Crawford is suing Arum right now.
Well, it doesn't take.
He's got a lawsuit against Arum, and as a matter of fact, because he has a lawsuit against Arum, Shakur Stevenson's last fight, Arum wouldn't even come and sit next to him because of his close association with Crawford.
You shouldn't. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that Bob Arum is not paying. I mean, Floyd. We saw Floyd. He talked about how his paper was low being with Bob, and then the biggest example is Manny. Manny sold out all of the time. There's no reason why Manny should have been broke. Well, I'm not gonna say broke. He should have had the financial. He should have had the
Manny wasn't broke.
He shouldn't have had the financial issues that he had. But that shows
Manny's financial issues was due to his spending. See, he's got an island that is expecting him to save it. So when he goes to the Philippines, he's giving out substantial
amount,
and he cannot say no. Wherever he goes in the Philippines, there's lines because they know he gives money. Yeah. His spending, it's not really Arum, it's his spending.
But what I'm saying is his for the drawing power that he's had over the years.
Yeah,
he should be on a lot better. He, even regardless of his giving, his philanthropic giving situation, he still should be in a much better financial stance than he was. That even when Floyd last fight, he talked about it. He was basically talking about Manny when he was talking about the finance. He said, "Hey, I fight because I want to, not because I have to."
Well, yeah, they said Manny, I don't know how true it was, but they said Manny had a crazy contract where he would borrow money on the, he basically would get an advance from Bob and have to pay, through the fight, have to pay some of that back like
it's the old
record contract. Oh my God.
Old school record contracts.
You're also forgetting endorsements and all the things that he's associated with. Manny is far from broke.
Right.
And even if he was close to being broke, he's got a senator's salary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, like I said, his money, from what they say, wasn't exactly where you thought it would be off all that he had.
Now, if you compare him to Mayweather, there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But nobody makes money like Mayweather.
But that's the issue that Mayweather was kind of saying. Like, you're almost as big of a draw as I am. There's no reason why we shouldn't be somewhere in the same ballpark financially.
Yeah. Yeah. But all that said, man, I want to see this fight. I know King told us last time he was, I think we talked over text. He was talking about, he's a Terrence guy. I'm kind of torn. I'm an Arrow guy, but I could see the fight really going either way. I'm really intrigued to see stylistically how it pans out. But anyway, man,
Absolutely.
it's going to be,
and hopefully we'll get a trilogy.
You know what I'm saying? Last little point, Kai Skeens and I were talking the other day. I don't know how he ended up going down the rabbit hole of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward trilogy. But he was like, dude, it was straight like Rocky Balboa, but they love Arturo Gatti. Rest in peace.
You know how I feel about boxing, right?
Yeah.
You know how I feel about boxing, right?
Yes, sir.
You know I'm a boxing aficionado, right?
Yes, sir. Indeed.
Gotti Ward 2 is the greatest fight I have ever seen in my entire life. And I've seen a lot of fights from 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I'm a boxing obsessive.
Yes,
Gotti
sir.
Ward 2, greatest fight I have ever seen. When I watched Gotti Ward 2, I cried.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
A lot of action.
It's the greatest fight I've ever seen in my life.
The only thing I said,
I watched it live when it was happening with my dad. And I was just looking at my dad like, can you believe this? I saw my dad with tears in his eyes. It's the greatest fight.
Yeah,
it's the greatest fight I've ever seen in my life.
I keep saying we're going to close, but I remember Jose Luis Castillo versus Diego Corrales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kai, we were watching it with my big homie. Shout out to my man Heed. Another boxing. He used to have so many fights over there. And it was me, him, and Skeens at his crib watching it. And that fight had so much drama at that one point. We were there yelling and shouting, and like the TV went out. You remember that?
Yes.
It came back on. It was like even the TV couldn't take it. You know what I'm saying? I was like, my God. But anyway, man, that's the drama of boxing. But Arturo, Mickey Ward, man, if y'all have never watched that series of fights, I mean, it's some of the most beautiful, gory, stand there, punch each other in the face, Rocky Balboa-ish type. I mean, you never see anything like it, man. Nothing like
That's
it.
what movies are made of.
I mean, straight up and down, man. But anyway, man, we've been on, about 2 hours. But anyway, again, it's been another episode of How Did We Get Here? I'm your host, Jay Carter. We're going to end it there. We got the man that is always heard and never, ever will be seen, Skeens.
And it shall remain.
And our unofficially official third co-host, Mr. King Kai Phoenix.
Almighty.
And we will holler at y'all on the next one.
Peace.
Love y'all.
Love you too.